Hey, Michael with XForcePC. I'm sitting here with our Platinum system. This case might look a little bit smaller than normal because I'm closer to you than the camera, but this thing is pretty good size. And we're not actually here to talk about this Platinum system. What I want to talk about instead is what's hiding behind the Platinum here. So let me move it out of the way. Oh, that's pretty heavy. And let's take a look at what I've got behind here. This is a new diminutive system that we've put together here. What we've got here is a Mini-ITX build, and I typically hate Mini-ITX builds, and the reason is they're just really cramped to work in. They it's hard to get my hands in there. Cooling can sometimes be an issue, and I've just never really been that fond of Mini-ITX systems for all of the above reasons. But this particular one has kind of changed my mind, at least for right now, when it comes to Mini-ITX builds. So one thing that can sometimes suck about small form factor builds is, number one, they'll sacrifice on the power supply. So in other words, they'll use a small power supply. An SFX, I believe, is the size that they typically use, and it's physically smaller, so they can't be as powerful, and the fans are smaller, so they make more noise, and everything's just really kind of cramped. But this particular case uses a full-size ATX power supply. We have a 700 watt one in here, just like the one we use in our Platinum system. So you're not sacrificing anything power supply wise. And another thing that sometimes happens when you're really trying to get these things small is they'll have an external power supply in a big old brick. So sort of like what you'd have with a laptop, except a larger brick. And so the power supply would actually be outside of the case. So it sort of kills the aesthetic of the whole thing when you got a small computer, but then you have this power brick that you have to do something with underneath your desk. Not the case here. We have an internal power supply, and it's full size, and it does not require any type of power brick. So another thing about this system is it's going to be just as powerful as our Platinum system, except it's not going to be overclocked. So you'll be able to get this with the 8500, the 8600, the 8700, and instead of running in the mid to upper 4 gigahertz range, they'll be in the mid to lower 4 gigahertz range. So the turbo speeds on the 8700, I believe, is 4.6 gigahertz, and then the turbo speed on I think the 8500 is like, well, I got it back here, is 4.1, the 8600 is 4.6, excuse me, 4.3, and the 8700 is 4.6. So you're not sacrificing a whole lot of speed there, and the reason we don't overclock the chip in here is for cooling reasons. We don't really have room for a tower cooler or a high-performance water cooler, so we simply don't overclock the chip. But it doesn't really cost you much as far as performance goes. So let's take a look at it a little bit. So here's the side, and I've already kind of taken a lot of the screws out. So I'll just take the side off here. Underneath this plate here, you can really get at everything, and I'm going to take that off in just a minute. But first of all, we have this fan here, large diameter fan, so it doesn't make a lot of noise, and it blows straight down on the processor and really the whole motherboard. So let me take off this one. I just have one of the screws in here. It normally is held in with 4 screws, but I just wanted to, for speediness, I didn't want to have to undo a bunch of screws. So you take this plate off here, and you have access to everything. Notice how the cabling here is nice and neat. We have a component power supply, so we don't have a lot of extra cabling in here. We also get a little zoomed in here. As you can see, it's a full-size power supply. It's 700 watts. We have a full-size graphics card in here, so we can support all of the high-end graphics cards in here. We have up to a 2 terabyte SSD. Of course, this is where the processor is. We have up to 32 gigs of RAM that we can put in here. And yeah, it's just a really clean, simple design and simple layout. So let me put this piece back on, and I'm just going to kind of let it hang there. I'm not going to screw it back in right now. And let's look around at the back side here. You see we got a lot of I/O. We got a lot of USB 3 ports, some USB 2 ports. We've also got wireless AC built in, so that's no longer an upgrade. That's just kind of built right in. And a lot of that reason is because on these Mini-ITX motherboards, you don't have a lot of expansion slots to add a wireless AC, so we just go ahead and include that so that you will have the ability to have an internal wireless AC. Around on this side, there's not a whole lot to see. This is the intake for the power supply, and that's the underside of the motherboard. So again, not a lot to see. Just like on most systems, when you take the right side off, there's not a lot to see. We do have our front I/O here, so this is the front of the case. And over on the side, on the front, we have our power button, a couple of USB 3s, and a headphone and a microphone jack. So this is a pretty cool little system. I really like it. And if you want a really powerful system that isn't going to take up a whole lot of desk space or floor space, this can be a really nice option. Or if you're possibly needing to carry this from place to place periodically, it can be nice. And it's just nice to have something that doesn't take up a lot of room, especially if you're sort of in a smaller office space. And it is 90% the power of our Platinum system in about a probably 1/3 size footprint. If you like this video, hit the subscribe button or hit the like button. And if you hit the subscribe button, you'll be notified on future videos. Thanks for watching.